Cisco networking, we went over Chapter 5 questions, and then we did a bunch of work for Chapter 6. They took the assessment for Chapter 6 for the second time, and if they need to, they can take it a third time on Wednesday. So, first thing we did, we talked about the Osi model. We reviewed all the layers, we reviewed segment packet frames, port numbers, ICMP, TCP, UDP. So when we're transporting, we can decide which of those it's using, plus others, but those are the ones we talked about. Then actually the next thing we did, we talked about private IP addresses. Actually I asked where do those fall in, right there, private IPs. And then we talked about the bits, and we looked a little bit at public IPs and what they're used for. And we mentioned the different classes. Those all fall under public there. That's a little confusing where I got the bracket there, but these are all talking about public IPs down here. And we talked about the bits and how the classes were first envisioned, and then we talked about the public address that we have up in our area, in the IST area. At least this is where it's taken from. It's not that entire one. So then we talked about IP addressing, and we talked about here at NIACC. We talked about the private addresses, network address translation. We translate these, for example, these 72.31.1 whatever /16. We talked about that. We talked about the addresses and the MAC addresses tied with the IP addresses. And we talked about how you can statically match an internal address with an external address, an internal private address with an external public address, like we've done here. So if you're out on the internet somewhere, you can get to the same server with 207.165.226.180 as you can internally with 172.31.0.80. All right, we talked a little bit about the 127.0.0.1 address, and we also talked about version 6 addresses briefly. And then we looked at this example right here. We've got some servers, and they have a public address in this example. Then we have workstations down here. We have a private address, and then we went over what the network part of that address is and what the broadcast of that address is. And then they were asked for the address in green, could they figure out what the network was, or what one of the networks was, and what a broadcast would be for that network. And so then we drew out the bits, /27, so that's where I get the green line there in the third octet. So everything to the left, that green line, is network. Everything to the right is host. So if those are all zeros to the right, that would be a network address. If they're all ones, that would be a broadcast. So for one of the networks, and we're going to calculate the others on Wednesday, the network address, if we used all zeros in those 3 slots, more or less if these 3 slots there are all zeros, then this top one is the network address. The bottom one would be the broadcast. 31 came from those ones in that octet. Alright, so we have the broadcast and we have the network, and so everything in between are usable addresses on that network. And so we picked one, the last one, this one right here, and we applied that as the default gateway. And then finally, in this scenario, I said, what would happen if somebody assigned this to one of the servers? And the student said it wouldn't work because it's outside the range. It's not in that network. All right, we're going to do a lab and finish this all up on Wednesday of next week. And then we'll move into the next unit on Wednesday if we get time. And at the end on Wednesday, we'll give them time to retake the test. Those that want to, those that want to keep their score can keep it. That's it. Midterm. Midterm is Friday, the 19th, and it'll have some questions from the units, and we'll review the first hour. We'll do some reviews. In the second hour, they'll have a small skills-based part to take, and then they'll have the midterm to take. And we're going to review chapters 3 and 4 first thing in class on Friday. That's it.